there have been lots of discussions in the media, social media, about AI. A lot of people fear it, and a lot of people are excited by it. It offers us endless possibilities, apparently, and yet there's so much fear with it too. Will we be controlled? Is there more sinister motives behind this technology? Throughout time, the same discussion, the same energy has permeated all new technologies, I would suggest. When the printing press was created in the 15th century, often people were scared because with the beginning of the printed press, the monks who wrote out this beautiful calligraphy and they created the most beautiful manuscripts and books, they were scared that education would be deteriorated. But when the printing press came in, it was incredible how many more people were able to read books. Literacy increased, not perhaps amongst common man, but a lot more the aristocracy and the richer people were able to afford book to read, write, and it started to change society. But often, people in charge, people who have power, fear losing power. So here we had the monks who were able to write these beautiful books. That was the only way to disseminate information. They could control it. Now, with the advent of the printing press, they couldn't control what was printed. They couldn't, even if they legislated, secret pamphlets were printed, secret books were printed. So this created fear for the landed people, for the people in power, because no longer could they control the narrative. And for the ordinary folk, there was a change in power. And so these monks that they revered, these priests that they revered, that they relied on to tell them the answer, that certainty was gone because now there's a mixture of ideas, because people were able to read and decide for themselves what they thought on the subjects. And I would argue, and I think many learned people too would agree with me, that this led to the Renaissance, this led to the Reformation. So there is both an enormous power in technologies to bring around change. Is it always for the good? It depends who's looking at it. But I would again argue that for society in general, for us people in general, there's a democratization, I can't say the word. There's a way of passing on information that makes information be equal. So everyone, whether you're rich or poor, has access to information. So when books came in, now anyone and everyone can read books. We have libraries. If you can't afford books, you can borrow them at no cost. There's an equalization in society as a consequence. But this also means that people have ideas that maybe we don't like, we don't subscribe to, that we don't want to be out there. There's good, there's bad, there's transformation, and there is this great power that the ordinary folk get from technology. Again, when the internet first came in, there's a lot of fear. A lot of people were scared and unhappy about what kind of images that began to appear on the internet, what kind of material appeared on the internet. Yet at the same time, for most people, they could just Google, go onto YouTube, and they could learn things that they had no idea even existed by doing searches. So again, there was great change. It brought in great revolutions, I would suggest, in the way that we live, in the way we do business. Everything's transformed. But at the same time, there is still a lot of fear about what the internet offers us. So no longer can the people in power control us. Although in authoritarian states, they do block off the internet. But this happened with the radio service too. During World War II, a lot of the Germans would make sure that the prisoners of war didn't have access to radio. And then people smuggled things in and they listened to radio and it gave them information. And so empowerment. So they were no longer in fear in prison camps because they knew exactly what was happening. Often prisoners knew about their allies and where they were, and hope of being rescued. Now we have AI, and we have exactly the same thing happening. And with AI, we have so much fear. And particularly, I would suggest, because of COVID, there's a lot of fear about, are we ordinary people going to be manipulated through AI? Who is going to have control of AI? There is also a lot of discussion and a lot of awareness that a lot of the information that has been made available to AI is very Eurocentric, is very white-centric. And a lot of the people who come from India, China, these new emerging world powers, and those parts of the world, Africa, are less represented. So will the results on AI be skewed towards a bias, a cultural bias? So this represents its own problems. But with AI, even though it has these problems, it has this incredible ability to transform our lives. And my belief is that with AI, this is part of the general trend of a new age beginning. We have had riots on the streets recently. We've had all the students protesting. We've had Georgia more recently, protests on the street. Again, there has been a lot of unrest in universities, other areas. And I believe that the AI is part of this unrest, because with these marches, which happened in the 60s too, with the Vietnam War, in 1968, the Paris riots, this brought about great change in thinking, and it did give power to the ordinary folk. And it did give ordinary folk the ability to protest, and that's what brought the Vietnam War to an end. So, again, we are in a time where ordinary folk are going to start to get power. And I believe that AI is part of that. Each one of us are going to be able to access all the wonderful, strong, incredible manifestations and iterations of AI. And this is going to be really powerful, because we individuals, whether we are in some far-off country, or whether we're here in developed countries, undeveloped countries, third world countries, we are all going to have this great power at our hands. And no longer will the powers that be able to tell us and dictate to us what to do. I believe that astrologers, many psychics, many other people, even historians, have pointed out that we're coming to a great change, and the AI is part of this. These riots are showing that power is no longer going to be these great big people, normally men, normally from middle upper classes, perhaps aristocratic, who dictate down to us. With this new way of being, they can no longer do that. There's a new way of politics. There's a new way of governance. There's going to be a new way of banking. And I believe that the AI is going to give us the empowerment. It will take a little time for everything to be ironed out and things to ease. But I also want to tell you that when I was young in the 80s, there were many discussions about whether calculators should be allowed in schools, because they thought that young students should still be able to do mental arithmetic. That discussion isn't had anymore. We've moved way beyond that. I believe that the AI we have now is like the calculator. It's just the beginnings of the technology. It's going to go to incredible, amazing spaces and places, which is going to give us, humanity, the empowerment. And I believe in the power of one. Each one of us will have the ability to influence the world. And I believe in the innate goodness of people, of humanity. And I believe that this is going to lead to a new age, a golden age, when humanity is going to be empowered, and it's going to be much better, much kinder, much more able to facilitate well-being and equality and love and care and joy for each other. I believe that everybody will come together in a way that flower power did. It permeated the whole world, and it made changes all over the world for the better.